y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Here at the Healthy by Heather Brown show, we're on a mission to help women take back their health, mind, body, and spirit God's way. No woo-woo, new age fluff, or mainstream nonsense. In a world pushing quick fixes and burnout, we're choosing real wellness, intentional living, and faith-filled confidence. This show is for you, sister, and it's made possible by this incredible community. If you believe in this mission, here's how you can help. 1, pause and leave a 5-star review. It's free and makes a huge impact. Share with a bestie who needs this message. 3, support the mission financially. Every little bit helps. Links for PayPal and Venmo are in the show notes. Let's rise up and change the culture, showing the world what healthy, empowered, faith-filled women really look like. Okay, friend, if you've ever wondered why cold plunging is everywhere right now, or if it's actually worth the hype, today's episode is your sign. Every time you guys have seen me cold plunging over the past 7 or 8 years, you have tons of questions. So today I'm sitting down with Wyatt Ewing, the founder of Ice Barrel, who went from 80-hour work weeks and total burnout to discovering a practice that literally rebuilt his brain, his marriage, and his energy. We're talking about the real science, the myths, and what women actually need to know, hot-cold contrast, and how a single cold shower turned into a company changing the wellness world. If you've ever wanted to feel calmer, sharper, or just more you, this is the episode. Let's dive in, literally. All right, Wyatt, yay, welcome to the show. So pumped to have you. Tell us a little bit about your background, meaning like how'd you find cold plunge? Where were you at before? And then tell us now about your busy life and family lifestyle so everybody kind of knows where you're coming from.
Sure. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I started cold plunging in 2017. My background was in corporate aviation. I would help people buy and sell their airplanes. I had a lot of anxiety from childhood, but it was definitely exasperated by the career that I found myself in. And I was just really struggling in life, struggling to be present with my family, struggling to be patient in general. And I was just in a lot of turmoil, honestly. It was awful. And I didn't look well either. You could see it on my face. And even like my healthy weight is like 180, 185. And I was like down to like 140 pounds. Like I just didn't look well. Yeah. And constantly sick. I had like a chronic bronchitis every like 60 days, get bronchitis. It was just this awful stress cycle. And thankfully, a stranger had the courage to tell me how unwell I looked and recommend I try cold showers. And we ran into each other at the gym and he was like, "You don't look good. You should try cold showers." And I was kind of offended, but understood for sure what he was saying. And I went home and I took that first cold shower and it was incredible. I felt like very present in the moment and I didn't realize that was missing from my life. And I had tried exercise and supplement and diet and meditation and a lot of other unique modalities to manage stress or anxiety, but nothing was like worked. But for some reason, that cold water just like snapped me out of it. So I started coming back to the cold showers like twice a day. It was like my thing, morning and night. And it slowly just started changing my life. Like, I will never forget the day that my wife told me, like, "You're so much more patient than you used to be." And I was like, I feel more patient than I used to be. And I wanted like to deepen the therapeutic practice. So I went like most people from the shower to the family bathtub to a trash can to a horse trough. And I realized at that point in the market, there was no great option to take an ice bath. And I didn't like the horse trough because like you were laying down in it. And it didn't make sense to me. Like nowhere in nature does a human or an animal go into that fight or flight response and then lie down on their back in a rested position. So I'm like, why are we taking ice baths lying down? So I saw there was nothing that existed and I figured I'd create it. So I literally did that crazy entrepreneur thing, quit my job, went all into the company, building it out. And ultimately my goal was just to share the power of cold with everybody everywhere.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love what you said about like going back to history and like how it's been done and stuff. I honestly was thinking about it as I was preparing for your interview, Wyatt. And I was like, and I'm a believer. And so I was thinking about how, well, honestly, way back in the day, obviously people didn't have showers and baths. And like, what did you do? You went probably into a cold river in the winter to like rinse off, get cleaned up, whatever. And how cool that God intrinsically built that into our body, where water does rewire us and help us with all these health benefits and things like that. So break it down for us a little bit. Like, what is happening in your body from a scientific perspective when you get into that cold shower, or now into the ice barrel cold plunge, which, by the way, I haven't said yet verbally on this podcast yet. Eric and I have ours. We're obsessed with it. Y'all are going to freaking love it, because it also does all the work for you. Like when he was talking about getting in, Eric's humble beginnings, my husband, was that he would get, like you said, in the trash can. His trainer would fill it with the ice and the water, but it's just not sustainable. Like, you can't just always have that ready to jump in and jump out. And when you are a busy entrepreneur like I am, or he's a cardiovascular nurse practitioner, you don't have time to go be like filling up a trash can with ice all the time. So anyway, we love cold plunging, was my point. Now tell us what's happening in your body that's actually helping you with that rest and repair versus the fight or flight.
Yeah. So immediately when you start submerging your body into cold water, you're automatically triggering the fight or flight response in the body. So you're stimulating the vagus nerve. All your senses are heightened. You're in this fight or flight response. And then as you consciously breathe, you start rewiring the body's response to stress. So it's like a giant workout for your nervous system. Immediately, you're going to feel just a relief in the body, because you're releasing all these beta endorphins that are good for your mind and hormones. You're also going to get relief because it's an anti-inflammatory. And then with consistent use, you start addressing symptoms and feelings of anxiety and depression and cognitive decline, things like that. So you get all these great benefits. It boosts your mood and your metabolism. After a certain duration in there, your body starts burning the white fat and producing brown fat. So it just all around, there's not a lot of health modalities that you can do in a day that takes 2 minutes to get the volume of benefits you're getting out of cold plunging. Like there's not a lot out there, very few actually. Usually you're going to the gym and exercising for 30 to 45 minutes, right? It's just it's this practice of just jumping a cold plunge for 2 to 3 minutes, and you've boosted your mood, your energy levels, reduced pain and inflammation, boost your metabolism, started burning white fat. Like, there's just so many incredible benefits in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. And in fact, like one of my girlfriends and then Eric also, they love to, when they can, start the day with the cold plunge, because y'all, when you get out, it is like this immediate like shock of energy, and you feel like I can conquer anything. Like, I am ready to go. But also Eric will say sometimes when he gets home from a long day of work, he's like, I'm going to get in the cold plunge because I'm worried that I'm so keyed up from work and can't turn my brain off.
Yeah.
That if you do the cold plunge at night and enough time before bedtime, he's like, but then it like helps you sleep so much deeper. His best nights of sleep come after cold plunging. Do you experience that too?
Oh, 100%. I prefer to do it in the evening. So like all throughout the night, your body's trying to cool itself. So if you get in an ice bath, you will, for most people, get a boost of energy. But if you time it right, like say your bedtime's at 10 a.m. and you're getting in an ice bath around like 7 to 8, you're going to get through that initial boost of energy, and you've already given your body a head start in its cooling process. So you've already brought your temperature down. You're going to be able to fall into a much deeper sleep a lot faster.
Absolutely. Wyatt, one thing that you mentioned earlier, and this was so I started cold plunging at my chiropractor and naturopath's office in Homewood many years ago. And the first thing, he was like, hey, I'm going to go out there with you to do your first couple times and just coach you through the breathing. And I was like, what? Like, I had no clue that breathing was such a big part of it when I was first hearing about it. So tell everybody, if they're like, okay, I'm going to try this today in my shower, because he mentioned it. How do they breathe? What does that look like? And just kind of really paint the picture of what's going through your mind in the beginning of that cold plunging process.
Yeah, there's a lot of different thought processes here, because there's a lot of different breathing exercises available to stabilize and calm the nervous system. What I like, and I think is most useful, and we actually developed an app with a timer and a breath circle, so you can breathe with the circle expanding, which is really helpful. But you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds before you get in the ice bath, and then you're going to exhale for 6 seconds. Ideally, you're doing this all through the nose, but if you have to start through the mouth, that's understandable. And so you're going to establish this breathing pattern before you get into the cold of in for 4, out for 6. And then as you enter the ice barrel, you're breathing in. And as you lower your body down to your shoulders, ideally like right to the base of the neck, you're exhaling on that 6 count. And then when you're at the base and you're sitting in the ice barrel, you take that inhale for 4 seconds. And it should be like a proper like 1001, 1002, right? It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You're not just breathing in fast. You're breathing in calmly. And again, you might need to do this through your mouth to start, but then ideally you get to the place where you're just doing this breathing pattern that you're coming back to, because the shock on your body, usually when it hits your chest, once you want to start hyperventilating. And that's okay for a moment if your body does that, but you want to come back to the in for 4, out for 6. So that's like the ideal breath pattern while you're practicing cold therapy.
Yeah. And Wyatt, I'll start kind of talking through my experience with it. And then I think it'd be interesting to hear someone else's perspective too. But Girl Gang, when I get in, I am definitely thinking like, okay, start controlling your breath. And I actually think that's part of the magic, is that it slows your brain down too, because you're like, all I can focus on is this breathing and the fact that I'm like really cold. So it's like, that is huge because it takes you out of whatever stress and all the 100 millions of thoughts that we have running through our brain every single day anyway. So then it's like I'm lowering myself into the cold plunge and I'm like, okay, just get down fast, because if you go too slow, it's almost harder. Just like how when you get in the pool or the ocean, it's cold. It's like you just want to submerge fast so that your body can like not be overthinking it too much. And then once I'm in there, then I'm like you're saying, Wyatt, I'm trying to like start thinking about my breathing even more. I'm glad you gave that tip about beforehand, because I don't know that I've ever thought about doing that beforehand. I need to do that. And then I'm thinking about the breathing, and the first, I don't know, for me, it's probably like the first minute, 90 seconds is miserable. And I'm just like, focus on the breathing. You can do this. I'm like looking at, the chill bumps coming up on my skin. And then I'm like, but if you can do anything for 30 more seconds. You can do anything for 30 more seconds. And so you're almost like mentally gearing up too. And then it's basically like after I've been in there for 2, 3, 4 minutes, at that point, I'm numb. So it's like, I got this. Like, I'm going to be fine. Depending on the day, the time of my cycle, what I'm in there for, all those things, depends on how long I might go. And I'd be curious, Wyatt, what is the latest research on how long you should go? And is it different for men or women? Is it different for different workouts you've done that way? Talk us through the logistics.
Yeah. So right now, what science is showing us is that you're wanting to get around 11 to 12 minutes a week of cold exposure in. What that means is cold water immersion under 60 degrees. So you don't have to be super extreme and get into like the 30s and 40s. You're getting 90% of the benefits under 60 degrees. So temperature below 60. I think a great starting point is between 50 and 55. And then again, you're trying to get into 11 minutes a week. So do 2-minute ice baths a couple times a week, maybe 3-minute ice baths. So,
I can't wait to go tell my husband this, because he's always like, I'm going to go for 7 minutes. And he's like trying to get down in the 40s. And I'm like, well, first of all, thank God for the ice barrel and the app, because y'all, it used to be that I just had to be like, all right, well, Eric said we're at 45 degrees this week, so here we go. But now you can change it in the app, where like in the morning, he can have it whatever temp he wants. And then by the time I want to do it, I've got it bumped up to wherever I want it, which is truly magical. Thank you so much for inventing that, Wyatt.
You got it. Yeah. I mean, there's this whole idea as well around just like building mental fortitude with it, which is interesting. So you do build up a cold tolerance. It's called cold habituation, where your tolerance to the cold, like you do this long enough, you can get into like 40-degree water and your breath doesn't even change. Like you just are used to it. So it's really unique. But yeah, there's definitely like those guys trying to build mental endurance, things like that. Like you can use it a lot of different ways. But I think if you're starting out, just easing the body in, the goal is to build consistency in the practice, like most things. So don't go too extreme and scare yourself out of it. It doesn't have to be hard.
Agree. I don't know about you, Wyatt, but I typically find that I am much more likely to want to cold plunge when it's hot outside, like in the spring and the summer and even in the fall, because it's so hot in Alabama most of the year. I'm like, oh yeah, cold plunging. Great, I'm in. But then when it gets to the winter months, I'm like, I'm not really looking forward to that as much.
Yeah. I tend to be kind of like type A extreme. If a little bit's good, a lot of it's better. So I'll cold plunge anytime. But I also really like to pair cold therapy with a sauna. I've done like a hot tub style, like a hot bath afterwards, but I really like sitting in a sauna for 10 minutes and then 3 minutes in an ice bath, and 10 minutes in a sauna, 3 minutes in an ice bath, and toggling that back and forth. You really start enhancing the body's ability to circulate, which is really cool because you get the vasoconstriction from the cold water and then you get the dilation from the heat. So it's like a really great experience to just flush the body. You do need to be cognizant though, which I think people don't give themselves enough credit for, but like your system is constantly regulating itself. Like you don't have to think about it, right? It's constantly regulating. And so if you can be sensitive, if you're in a high state, a high stress state, maybe skip the ice bath, right? Because like you're going to stress your system out even more. And if you don't have the tolerance for that, you don't want to overdo it, especially if you start layering in contrast therapy. It is a stressor on the system. And so maybe you need, if you do want to do it, make sure the temperatures are a little bit higher, the duration in the cold is a little bit lower. Like do what feels comfortable and right for the body. The body's smart and intelligent and we're all different, but it knows. So, but if you are in a high stress state and you need to snap yourself out of it, cold plunge is a great way to get a quick reset in. I don't recommend like a long duration session, but you want to trigger that mammalian dive reflex to snap the body out of that panic state.
Say that word. I've never heard that word before. What did you just say and what does it mean?
Yeah, the mammalian dive reflex. It's a term used in nature, similar to like when polar bears, once they get like tranquilized, their body temperature completely drops. And then they stand up and they start shivering violently. And then they usually, as soon as like they get their body temperature really high, they'll then immediately go and jump into cold water if they have access to it. And it snaps you out of a panic attack, basically.
Oh, how fascinating.
Yeah, cold water is one of the few things that can trigger the mammalian dive reflex.
Okay, I feel like since you just said that about sauna and hot and cold, I do have to go say, y'all, I did a whole podcast episode with Connie with sunlight and saunas. So I'm going to link that down in the show notes too, so y'all can check that out. That is one of Eric's all-time favorite things to do, is go back and forth between the sunlighting and our ice barrel, and we love it. And I've done it some, but I mean, y'all, he's very much like you, Wyatt. Like he wants the mental fortitude, like he wants to build that mental toughness. And so he is like, it's 30 degrees outside and we're out in the hot tub, and he's like, all right, I'm going to jump in the cold plunge. And he literally like dunks his head under there. And I'm like, you're psycho. And now, like, Wyatt, I don't know about your kids and your wife. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. But my youngest one, actually, he's more like me. He's just like crazy and he'll try anything. But he's like, oh, if daddy did it, I did it too. So he jumps out of the hot tub. He jumps in the cold plunge. He dunks his whole body and hops right back in. And I'm just like, oh my word. I don't understand.
Yeah, I think it's great for our kids to see us doing challenging things. I love to take my kids with me when I'm doing contrast therapy, or even when I'm doing a really hard CrossFit workout at the gym. Like, I want them to watch me suffer, be uncomfortable, and be able to handle it and get through it, right? That just starts developing in them, like, hey, it's normal to go through hard things and to, submit your body to challenge. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I think when kids are practicing cold therapy, like, it's obviously important to keep the temperatures comfortable degrees for them. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great place for them to start, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talk a lot on the show about, like, yes, obviously it'd be really great to build generational wealth, but I feel like people talk about that a lot. So I really talk a lot about on this show building generational health. Like, we really want our boys to see me and Eric taking part, like you're saying, in hard things and in things that challenge our bodies and taking care of our bodies, so that we're raising them up knowing more about what that looks like to do than maybe even what was modeled for us. So I love
Oh, for sure. No, it's great. When I look back at my parents and grandparents, the things like the health knowledge, the wellness space was just so limited. Like, it's amazing that they even made it through. Like, how are we here? Like, my grandparents knew nothing And my parents knew, a lot less than we know now just about like health things. The knowledge just wasn't there. So, yeah.
Well, but Wyatt, that's what's so interesting. Like, I definitely think that for our parents' generation, like, yeah, health was non-existent. And like the foods that they were fed was insane, and the chemicals and all the things.
Yeah.
But our grandparents, like, they naturally a lot of times were like outside all day working on the farm or working in the cold, and like naturally getting how God designed it to be. But every generation gets further away from it. And so I think unless we teach our children what it looks like in this world now, how to live healthy, it can get really unhealthy really fast.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, we can go on a whole tangent about that.
Yeah, I mean, same.
So we'll stay here. But okay, let's deep dive a little bit into the science meets like Sunday reset is what we call it here. So for people who are new to this space, and, we're women, is it the same for men and women to cold plunge? I have just been learning in the past, I would say like 1.5 to 2 years, that it's probably not. I've adjusted how I'm cold plunging, but I want to hear from an expert how I should be doing it exactly as I'm starting to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. So I recommend two incredible female voices when it comes to cold therapy and women's health. It's Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Susanna Sosberg. A lot of times what the science is showing is with the 4 different cycles in a woman's body, there are good times to cold plunge, and then there are also times where you're kind of defeating the body's natural purpose. So as an example, like during the menstrual phase, the body temperature needs to stay a little bit warmer. So cold plunging is like defeating what the body's already trying to do. That's why like a cup of tea and a blanket feels so good.
All the things. Exactly,
right? So that's a great time to use an infrared sauna and warm the body up. And then as you're going into I'm forgetting the term, but the high energy phase, that's a great time to
right after you finish your cycle.
Yeah. So then you have the ovulation phase. That's a great time to start pushing the body's limits a little bit more, and cold therapy is great during that time. And then you have the follicular phase, which is also a great time to practice it. And then as you go into the luteal phase, that's a great time to start introducing the sauna, tapering off on the cold therapy. But your body intuitively knows this. And so as you're going through a month, when the body wants to cool off, you'll start getting signals for that, right? Especially as the female body starts transitioning into its older years and menopause starts coming, there's great research around that's a great time to start cold plunging more often.
Really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Which makes sense because we always hear about when women enter menopause, they start hot flashes. So it's like that's a great modality to help with that. And cool.
Yeah, the body's trying to balance the hormones and trying to cool off.
Okay, that's really interesting. So practically for me, girl gang, if you're listening to that, what that looks like for me right now is we've been talking on the podcast a lot recently about just in general your toxic load. So like a lot of times if I'm really stressed out and maybe it's like it's around the holidays, so I'm eating more junk and I'm having more alcohol than normal, and it's like my body's already in a high stress state, then like I'm probably not going to add in cold plunge, but like Wyatt said, I might get in the sauna instead. And then also, like you said, if I'm on Shark Week, then I'm not going to be getting in the cold plunge. But then once I taper that off, and if it sounds like, yeah, my body's feeling geared up for this, a lot of times you'll notice that you have more energy to be able to lift heavier weights at this time or to want to do more cardio. That's an awesome time to get more in the cold plunge. So Wyatt, will you share a little bit too? I've been researching recently about cold plunge and how it helps you recover from different workouts. There's something about like if you do a strength workout, don't get in for a certain amount of time because it might taper off the results you might see from that workout. Fill us in there.
Yeah, so this is a relatively a moot point actually, because when you're working out really hard and you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to keep the inflammation in the muscle. And if you take an ice bath immediately afterwards, you start flushing the lactic acid out of the muscle. But we're talking like a less than 4% like decrease. It's very, very nominal. But here's where it does matter. If you're a bodybuilder and you're training for a competition, like that's a time like you don't want to get cold. You need to sit in the sauna, right? You need to build the inflammation actually up in the body. And so if you're a bodybuilder, then you're going to want to not take an ice bath immediately after a workout. But for the rest of us who are just the weekend warrior, we're not bodybuilders, it's not going to decrease your gains substantially. You're not even going to notice, to be honest. Okay. Now, if you do care about it, all you need to do is wait about 4 hours. So if you work out in the morning, take an ice bath in the afternoon, right? Or if you take an ice bath in the morning and you're working out in the afternoon. So for a lot of people, this is not a big deal. What I will say though, which can be helpful, if you're doing like high intensity, high volume workouts, an ice bath that's colder for a shorter amount of time is a lot more beneficial than an ice bath at higher temperatures for a long period of time. If you are a like ultra athlete or marathon, triathlon, right? A higher temperature for a longer duration is going to be much better for you than colder temperatures for a short duration. So you can kind of hack it to get the most maximized benefits out of the experience.
Okay. So I'm also realizing we talked some about luteal phase and ovulation and just different things like that. If you're like, I don't know what the heck y'all are talking about, I'm also going to link back to a hormone expert where we talked about all that and how to modify your workouts and all the things for women dependent on that. We talked about timing in the menstrual cycle. Will you tell us a little bit about how cold plunging can help with hormonal health if they're not in menopause? Because I know you already talked about that. And then also about a little bit more about brown fat activation and mood stabilization.
Sure. So again, depending on where you are in the cycle, your body is trying to get to certain states. So if you're in like the menstruation phase of the cycle, the body wants to be warm. And so not practicing cold therapy and leaning more into the sauna. And if you're in the opposite phase where you're in like your ovulatory phase, you can start cooling off the body. Your energy levels are going to be a lot higher. And so contrast therapy or ice baths can be great during that time. So the other thing is beta endorphins help stabilize mood. And so when you expose your body to cold water, your brain starts releasing all these great hormones that help with stabilizing the mood and the energy levels as well. So I think like the thing with like mood and hormones, when you give the body what it needs when it needs it, it will stay stabilized. But when it's not getting what it wants when it needs it, the body starts trying to get it and trying to find it. And so a lot of time, a mood is just a way of trying to find what it needs, what the body needs and wants, right? So a lot of times that can be helpful. So you're not looking at it as like a mood swing, but instead it's, hey, my body needs something right now. And it might be emotional and mental, it might be physical, whatever it may be, but that's just a signal that, hey, my body needs something right now. So if I can help it find it, then I'm going to find a form of peace and balance in it. So maybe the body wants hot, maybe the body wants cold, maybe it wants a piece of chocolate. You know what I mean? I think you can just like play with it and support the body's what the body needs versus trying to like mute it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the body wants water or it wants electrolytes.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many things that I think, unfortunately, in our culture, we're so busy and we're so disconnected. We're always on screens that we forget how to listen to our body. And so let me encourage you that if you're like, yeah, I have no clue what the heck my body wants right now, maybe go for a walk outside and like truly start to think about what does it need and try water and or electrolytes first, because a lot of times that is what it is. But
yeah, it can be the smallest things that make the biggest difference.
Yes. And your body, like God designed your body to heal. Like a lot of times we're like, oh, I don't even know. And I'm frustrated. I don't know why I'm gaining weight or whatever it is. But y'all, so many times it's because we don't take the time to slow down and regulate our nervous system and figure out what it's trying to communicate to us to help it heal. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about, is there any population that you would say should not cold plunge or should not mix hot and cold? And I know that you talked about females, obviously, like sometimes the month. We got that, which I'm so glad of. Yeah. Thank you for that education. But is there anybody that's listening to this, you'd be like, if you have this going on, do not do this?
Yeah, I mean, if you're having any health concern, it's important that you consult a doctor for sure, especially if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, it can be hard for circulation and getting your extremities warm after cold exposure. So you need to be very careful with that. If you have any heart issues, cold shock can be very intense. I would also throw a caution out there that if you struggle with PTSD of any sort, depending on the level of severity of that, you should be cognizant that you're going to hurl your body into the fight or flight response. And that's different for people with PTSD. So finding a cold therapy practitioner or someone that can be with you and help support that process through breathing and calming exercises, that's important as well. So just be cognizant, be careful, be thoughtful. And it's always a good idea to plunge with a buddy, have somebody there with you, especially if you're uncertain and it's your first time.
Wyatt, that made me think, because we were talking about temperatures and stuff earlier, when people get in the shower and they turn it to cold, if they're just getting started after they hear this today and they're like, all right, I'm doing it. About how cold does a shower typically get when you put it on cold? And is there any amount of time that you advise people when they're starting to go for it? And what steps do you do after you get out of the shower, if any?
Yeah, you know what's funny is cold showers actually are not that cold. Across the US, like the average shower temperature is like 50, like when you go cold is like 55 to 60 degrees.
Really?
It's really not that cold. Now, wintertime, that can change. And if you're on a well, that can change. But like for most people, if you're like in an apartment building, in California, your water temperature is not that cold actually. So, but what it is it breaks the thermal barrier on the body, the cold water constantly moving and running, that it feels colder. So a lot of times people report that cold showers are worse than ice baths.
Okay, interesting. And so how long should they try it in the beginning, do you think? And do you end on cold?
Yeah, so here's the thing. If you're going to do this is a common question, actually. So if you're going to take a cold shower, you don't want to start off cold because you start closing your pores and it can be hard to get clean. So take your regular shower, warm water, and then you can start turning the water colder and colder. You don't have to go all the way cold at first. You can go halfway and get used to that, but try and get in a 2-minute cold shower at the end of your shower. And then yes, you'll want to end cold. Don't give your body the luxury of the hot after that.
Yeah, somebody explained it to me as like, don't defeat the purpose of being cold by ending on hot, because then like your body didn't have to do the work to naturally warm itself up, which is part of where the magic is, right? In the science.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as soon as you get that shiver response, that's where your body is like you're boosting your metabolism. And you mentioned earlier about white fat and brown fat. It's the brown adipose tissue. Brown fat is what your body uses as energy. And so the cold increases the production of brown fat in the body. And there's certain spots on the body that you start developing that, but it will also start burning white fat. Now, this is not like you start taking ice baths and you just start melting the fat away. Like it's not like that. It takes consistency, but the goal is, again, as you start stabilizing the body's hormones in general, when you're in fight or flight mode, your body's in storage mode. And so your body's going to store more white fat. But if you can get your body into a rest and repair mode, then it's going to start burning all that white fat. So cold therapy is a more holistic way to look at a healthy preventative modality for healing of how can I get my body to be in the most optimal state to run efficiently.
And Wyatt, I realized, I'm so glad you came back because it reminded me, I asked you earlier to describe your cold plunging experience and what you're thinking about. You mentioned the breath work before you get in. Once you're in the cold plunge, what are you thinking about? Are you not thinking? How are you breathing and how do you get out? Tell us all the things, the details.
Yeah, so it's changed greatly over the years. So when I first got in, my number one thought was like, I'm just going to surrender to this experience. A lot of people judge cold bad and hot good. Right. We even tell our kids, like, don't go outside without a jacket in the cold. You'll get a cold. Right. And we have this really negative cognition around cold that has just been pounded into our heads. But a cold is nothing more than just a sensation on the body, similar to heat. And so if we can look at it through a neutral lens and not judge it, then you're just experiencing a sensation and you're taking the psychological fear of cold being bad out of it. So initially it was like, I'm just going to surrender for the next 2 minutes to whatever sensation is on my body. Then I started building up a tolerance to the cold. And now when I get in an ice bath, it's pretty balanced the entire time. I just get in, I'm kind of just chilling, for lack of a better term.
Literally.
Yeah. But I think I'm still consciously just like allowing myself to fall into presence versus, thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Are there any mistakes that you typically see people or beginners make cold plunging, and or is there any like common misconceptions about cold plunging you'd like to bust while you're here?
Yeah, get out slowly, right? I think that's a common mistake is people in their first time, they're trying to get out as fast as possible. So get out slowly, thoughtfully, keep the entire practice mindful. Again, you get all these happy feelings and endorphins. So you can get really excitable. I've never seen anyone get out of an ice bath without smiling or a smirk on their face of some sort. So yeah, just enjoy the process, but keep it mindful. And a common misconception. Yeah, I think the biggest one is like, you don't have to go into the 30s. Like, I think there's like this narrative out there that the colder, the better, the colder, the more benefits. And that's just not true. Yeah. So you can set the ego aside and just like start at 60 degrees and go down to 55, then settle in around 55, maybe 45 to 55. It doesn't have to be an extreme practice.
What would you say is the biggest benefit that you have noticed personally, and what is the biggest benefit your wife has noticed personally from cold plunging?
For me, I would actually say it's the mental benefits. I think that it's helped me stay present, patient, and peaceful. I don't even struggle with like, I'll have maybe moments of feeling anxious, but I used to have like chronic anxiety and like even depression, and I don't have that anymore. And that was through consistent use of cold therapy for sure that I was able to eradicate that. So that's been my biggest benefit. And then for my wife, I think it's probably more, she's a very peaceful soul. So for her, it's been more of like the physical recovery after a strenuous workout. But also even for just like the contrast therapy is just a nice like relaxation therapeutic tool. So.
And when you say that, because we didn't get into this earlier, when you say the physical recovery, I asked you a lot of questions about the specifics of it, but what does that mean? Does that mean less muscle soreness? Like what does that actually play out like for her?
Yeah, less muscle soreness, faster recovery, so you can get back to training at whatever level she's wanting to train at that time. So just like a faster rebound, less pain, inflammation, things like that.
Okay. And then I have two final questions for you. Number one is, what is something that you're learning right now? It could be in business and fatherhood and your body about anything.
Yeah, gosh, I'm always learning. I just got back I say just got back. It feels like I just got back. Back in September, I did a vision quest in the desert where I was fasted alone in the desert for 3.5 days in a 10-foot circle. And I think since then that like you get rid of all stimulus. So you don't have your phone, you don't have noise, you don't have anything visually other than the nature in front of you. And so I think I'm learning that I'm learning to reintegrate a deeper level of intuition and sensitivity within myself. I think a lot of the answers that we seek are already within us. We just don't get quiet enough to hear them. And I think there's a lot of wisdom and intelligence that lives within the body that helps us. If you think about it, like thousands of years ago when we were hunters and gatherers and things like that, like they were so in tuned to themselves and the land and even the people around them. And I think that we've lost a lot of that with the existence of these. I mean, isn't it crazy that you walk through an airport and this is all you see is people looking down at their phones? We used to talk to each other on airplanes. Now we put our headphones on and ignore each other. Like, how much are we missing because we're not looking and we're not listening? And so I think what I'm learning right now is that there's a whole world out there that we're not seeing. And if we can get quiet and kind of reintegrate that sensitivity and intuition to ourselves and our environment, you can learn a lot. And then you might need a lot less talk therapy. So that would be my answer for question one. What was question two?
That's really good. And Wyatt, I just want to say that this is such a just like little tangible thing off of what you said. But one thing that I've started doing recently is when we're interviewing babysitters or like nannies that are going to help me with like either picking up the boys from school or whatever, is the first thing I say to them is, before you enter my home, I just want you to know you're not allowed to be on your cell phone unless it's an emergency. And you communicate that to me ahead of time that you need to have it on you, because I don't want my boys to grow up in a place where they see that everyone around them is, like you said, just looking down at that device. And I think it makes such a difference. So anyway, we all struggle with it and the babysitters aren't immune to it. And so it's just like a little mindful thing.
That's great.
Okay, Wyatt. And then the final question I asked to everybody on the show is, how do you personally reset?
Obviously, cold therapy, ice baths are a huge part of that reset process. But also probably more than anything right now would be my breath. Becoming conscious of how I'm breathing, when I'm breathing, and in moments where I'm feeling dysregulated, just literally changing my posture, opening up my chest, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because sometimes when you're in an intense business setting or a relational setting with somebody, it's very common for us to want to bring our shoulders forward, cross our arms, put our hands like crosswise over our legs. We want to kind of physically shrink inwards. And so when I start feeling that way, like cognizantly, I can't say that word right now, but just opening my chest and allowing myself to take deep breaths in whatever I'm experiencing, I think has probably been, over the last year, the most important way to regulate.
Oh, that's really good. Wyatt, at the end of every episode, I try to give everybody a tangible takeaway. So that would be my takeaway for you today, Girl Gang, is that you would just really start to be slow and breathe. Even after you hit end on this podcast, like take your hand on your heart, hand on your belly, do some deep breaths, because you'll be shocked how much more present it makes you feel and just how much it calms down and regulates your nervous system. And I'm like, bonus challenge is to, if you don't have a cold plunge, don't have an ice barrel yet, then in the cold shower, try that out today. Even if it's for like 30 seconds, just starting there and starting to build that mental fortitude, you'll be shocked what it will do for your mindset, for everything in your life. Honestly, like I can't believe how much it has rewired how Eric and I handle day-to-day hardships. And then Wyatt, tell everybody where they can find you online, where they can learn more about Ice Barrel or get their own ice barrel.
Yeah, so the best place would be icebarrel.com, or if you're on social media, just at icebarrel on Instagram is the best place to find us. Awesome.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, Wyatt. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
All right, Girl Gang, have a beautiful day. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prayer-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, Girl Gang.